Welcome to this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I'm Karen Scott Green.
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
And we are here today with
John Harris.
Yes. And Kat and I both know John. I know John because we used to go to church together, and also my children took Taekwondo with him. So amongst a myriad of titles that he holds, John is also a black belt. What degree? Second degree black belt in Choi Kwang Do.
Correct.
And Catherine can tell how she knows him.
Well, I know him from a volunteer standpoint. We do a lot of work with veterans, and we're dedicated to making sure our veterans get all the resources that they need, from food insecurities, home insecurities, homelessness, jobs, and so forth. So John is very impactful in the community with helping veterans through the Department of Veteran Services.
And so it's funny because I've known you through my children, and I've known you by seeing you at church. I had no idea about the work that you did with veterans.
Right, and vice versa. I didn't know about the Taekwondo, right? So here it is, working with Karen. I better get it right. It's now, educate me. It's what now?
Choi Kwang Do.
Choi Kwang Do.
Yes.
And Taekwondo. So what's the difference?
Okay, so if you don't mind, thank you ladies so much for having me here to have this conversation. You know, it's obviously what you both are doing is so impacting, it's empowering, and it's needed.
Thank you.
So I feel honored to be able to sit here between these two powerhouses.
But thank you so much.
In terms of what you both do. So just in a nutshell, Taekwondo obviously is the ancient martial art that was founded by General Choi many years ago. Our grandmaster within Choi Kwang Do is Kwang Do Choi, and he was one of the original masters that brought over Taekwondo. The history of it is that he, as a martial artist, suffered a number of ailments and injuries, and what it did was it put him in a situation where he was not going to be able to continue to teach, so he had to stop. That led him on a journey and a quest to understand many of the sciences, you know, and from that study, he created Choi Kwang Do. So Choi Kwang Do is a created martial art form, promotes optimum health, total fitness, and practical self-defense.
Okay.
So that's the difference. And so the differences and the distinctions are very important, especially if you're talking to martial artists, because you know, there's obviously a lot of pride that's attached to the historical pieces of Taekwondo versus Choi Kwang Do. But although Choi Kwang Do has definitely gained its respect over the years under Grandmaster Choi.
Wow.
But it has its roots in Taekwondo.
Absolutely, yes.
Now your nonprofit again, what's the name of your nonprofit and what do you do?
It's called the Inner City Achievers Network, and it was formed in 2000, what is this?
I know it's one by fast.
Yeah, I know. 21. So 2021, which is really when we were able to kind of finally get things launched. And we recently acquired our 501c3 status, which was very important.
That's right.
Thank you. But the organization, its mission is to empower young people and work with their families. Three critical areas: education, community engagement, and conflict resolution.
Very important.
Okay?
Very important.
So the programs, the emphasis and the focus are all tailored around strengthening the character of young people and their families in those three areas.
That's right.
And it's so important because, and it's not ironic, but I'm sitting between you, Kat, who I kind of met through my community engagement.
That's right.
And you, Karen, because of the martial arts piece or the conflict resolution piece. And all of it, to me, ties to education.
That's right.
So, you know, when you talk about, for example, you know, and I know this is near and dear to your heart, school to prison pipeline, right?
Yes.
And why that's happening, what's factoring in. We get it. There are a number of variables, and you know, there's no denying personal responsibility. But there are some skills, there are some opportunities that young people have to have in order to be able to navigate around that pipeline in many cases, because there are traps that are set.
Right, right.
And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, those traps are being set by the man or the system or anything along those lines, but those traps are there. And you know, if you're going to avoid it, you have to have something that kind of helps you to avoid it. And so with Inner City Achievers, you know, it's in that order. It's education, it's community engagement, and it's understanding conflict resolution. But I'll be honest with you, in terms of my thrust, you know, the thrust is really on understanding conflict resolution.
Okay.
You know, you have to understand conflict, and you have to have a strategy for addressing conflict, because it's such a reality. You know, and so many of our young people, I mean, what do? You turn on the news every morning.
Every morning, because they don't know how to resolve conflict.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, you know, we take it from the perspective of like ABC in terms of the steps that you have to learn to deal with conflict.
And so what are the steps that you're teaching young people on how to resolve conflict?
Sure. So, just a couple of them. And the first one is understanding authority.
Very important.
When I tell you, it is the foundation of dealing with conflict. You have to understand authority.
And because even when you lead, when we do community service, you clearly establish a level of authority even with adults. So if we don't learn that as kids, you grow up to be an adult who do not respect authority.
Right.
So it's very important, and we establish that in leadership.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking that teachers see it in the classroom.
That's right.
Where students are not respecting the authority of the teacher in the classroom. And then even as an attorney in court with young people, we would sometimes see young people coming into court behaving in ways that are inappropriate.
Right.
And it's because they don't know that, okay, you don't come into the courtroom calling the judge yo man, or you know, or and you just choose to, because some kids know better and they choose not to do better, and then there are some people who really just do not, and then that's where because again, you know, and you know, there are as many steps in this as there are letters in the alphabet, right? And so what we do is we take each step in the process and go through programs and workshops and opportunities and some community engagement, some education, for express purpose of instilling these attributes and these traits. Take it back to martial arts for a second, right? First thing we teach a student, and you'll remember this, is the outward block.
Okay.
Technique-wise, the outward block, right?
Do a little something, just do a little, okay.
Right?
All right. So
really a basic technique, but every class that we have, you start with that move. Everyone. Now there are a couple of others, but the reason I say that is because it's all about muscle memory in Choi Kuen Do, right?
Yes.
It's all about understanding that when in real life, when things happen, when a situation occurs, things go from this big to this small.
Right.
And so the brain is funny, is that it does draw on what's been practiced. So if you've been practicing this movement, you know, for 3 years on your way to your black belt, if you're in a conflict, you might not do this, but you might do this.
Yes.
Right.
And that might be enough to stop your face from getting caved in, right? In conflict resolution, and when we talk about, you know, what we do with the Inner City Achievers Network, it's about taking the issue of conflict, reducing it to a level that everybody can relate to in one way. And then as we go through these principles, we go through a lot of them. You may not remember all of them. However, through the repetition, you're going to remember at least one. But that authority, listen, it's the first one. And it is the one that we spend the most time in anytime we're talking about dealing with conflict, because all authority is relative. And that becomes, if you have that as your foundation,
Right.
Yeah.
anything you do after that can be a positive response to conflict.
And I'm thinking in terms of the Choi Kwan Do or any martial arts.
Yes.
One of the first things the kids learn when they, or anyone, not just kids, anyone when they come into the dojo, is that you are sensei, and that they address you every time that they come onto that mat.
Absolutely.
And if you are not there, the highest ranking belt gets greeted, leads the class. So they learn
Absolutely.
that as part of martial arts. They learn that authority.
Absolutely.
And the next person in line leads the class. And so it's really good leadership building.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Because Raymond started doing martial arts when he was 3 or 4 years old. My youngest.
That's perfect.
And at one point he got they're both black belts, but as a brown belt, he was probably about 7 or 8, somewhere around there. And there were times when he got to lead the class.
That's right.
And he got to lead the class, and at the end of the class, they said, whatever the saying is that you guys said. Yeah.
What is it?
Pilsung.
Pilsung.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me what that means.
Within the children's promise, it means to always do my best and never give up. Within the adult promise, it means certain victory.
Okay.
So
he would, and even as an 8-year-old with his brown belt leading the class, he would do that at the end. And even the adults who had white belts to yellow belts had to turn and bow to him.
Absolutely.
And authority. So it's really a great tool,
Absolutely.
a great tool for teaching young people leadership skills
And respect.
yes.
That too.
Early. Your baby was 6?
3 when he started.
I know, but 6 leading other adults.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he can learn that respect goes both ways.
Absolutely.
It's not age,
No.
it's the position that you're in.
Exactly. And that's, all authority is relative, right? And so, just to kind of build on that point, within martial arts, for your son, got his black belt at what age?
Ooh.
Well, you're
So he
challenging
got-
the brain over there. You're challenging the brain over there.
He got
At
2. So
7?
he was 7 or 8. when he got his black belt.
Okay.
So he got 2. He got Chi Kwang Do and Choi Kwang Do.
Okay, gotcha. Right. Okay.
And so,
Right. So So your son, their son, at 7 or 8 years old, is Mr. Green.
Wow.
To the other students, if they have to address him, it's Mr. Green, right? Because the authority that's attached to that belt demands that. Right now, when the kids, when they're all interacting and they're playing and horsing around, come on, Mr. Green. No, they're going in, right? But that gets instilled because that authority is so important, and I just have to say that, it is really very largely, that influence of martial art instruction and teaching that I got to do for so many years, and having a school and coaching and interacting with the parents, right? That I gained an even greater appetite for this particular area and the need for more. So, for example, I'm oftentimes asked, Mr. Harris, are you going to teach again? And
I need a class myself.
And the answer is yes, because what I believe is that, I took that, I started doing that in 2010, and then stepped away from it, and now I'm kind of refining. And so when we come back, I envision it being so much more. Obviously, yes, martial arts, self-defense, etc. But if you don't understand in your mind what you're dealing with when it comes to conflict, like sometimes people will bring their kids to me, right? Listen, take him. He is just out of control. And I can deal with that. I can handle that. And I would teach, right? And I would also coach. Now, if someone brings me their child in a situation like that, I want them to understand when you bring your child to me, I'm not just going to teach them blocks, punches, and kicks. I mean, we're going to impact their mindset.
We're doing some shifting.
Absolutely. Because listen, how else are we going to impact this pipeline?
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
I mean, you got so many kids that have gone away, gone astray, went left, run amok, right? Because they did not have a foundation centered around, and I'm always going to go back to it, an understanding of authority. If I understand authority, man, a number of my troubles
That's
go
right.
away.
This is true. How are you choosing the children for your young? How are you choosing your young people?
Sure. So what's going to happen is once this site is built up and ready, it's going to really be just about reaching out to schools.
Okay.
Obviously, because the organization is here in Gwinnett County, you know, and I've done some I've done some substitute teaching. I actually substitute taught my daughter when she was Shiloh Middle when she was in the 7th grade, and she's graduating a year early, so that must mean that I did something right.
That's right.
Oh no, that's on her. No, okay.
No.
I was trying to. Yeah, she'll come out.
Our kids attend school.
Yeah. But so one of the things that I'll do is I will reach out, obviously, to the school system. I'll probably start with one school and see if we can identify a couple of students that we can work with. And I don't just want, you know, because another thing that happens, I don't just want the problem kids.
That's right. That's right.
Because to me, if it's just the problem kids, then I'm sorry to say it, that's still school to prison pipeline.
That's right.
Because that kid is, if it's almost like if we don't get it, this kid is done. No. I want some of everybody.
That's right.
Because, you know, we also talk about community engagement, you know, and being involved in activities and seeing other people in their reality. Why? Because these generations also struggle with a sense of entitlement because they have not had to do a certain level of struggling. And I'm not saying that you got to struggle that way in order to be successful, but you need to see that there are people that are really having a tough time, whether it be veterans who are dealing with homelessness, being disabled, being low income, homelessness in general. If you go downtown on, was it Juniper, I think it is, or I think that's the street, and you just, you know, the number of young men that are homeless, literally aimlessly walking around every day with nothing. They didn't start there. They started in somebody's classroom, somebody's school, as somebody's child, and there were. And I'm not saying they didn't get certain opportunities. That's what I say. You know, personal responsibility is very important.
That's very important.
But certain, you know.
But somewhere along the way, some system did not work for them.
Correct.
Exactly.
Some system didn't work.
Did not work. Did not work. And so we got to have these conversations. We got to have children. We got to catch them, and we got to say, hey, how do you think this person got here? Like, I really want you to think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
How did they get there? And when we talk about authority, right? I remember when I was in New York City as a kid going to school, when I walked to school, get to the corner, there was a crossing guard. Crossing guard standing there with the sign, stop, go, right? If the sign up was stop, you could not cross the street.
Correct.
Right? If you crossed the street, that crossing guard had the authority to get your name or point you out to someone in administration. They would get your name, and that would be documented. If it kept happening, guess what? You would get a visit from the police department.
Wow.
See?
Right? So, understand, you know, that sign, go, stop, was more than just a way to, you know, a license to cross the street. It's planting seeds of authority. So when we look at people and we see the things that they've gone through, we got to be able to say, you know, A, B, how did they get there? Well, it started here. So if you're not willing to follow the instructions of the crossing guard, then it means that when you get older and you can drive, I'm gonna bring it to Georgia.
That's right.
You ain't gonna pay attention when you're behind a school bus and the lights are flashing, the big stop sign is right there,
That's right.
and you race right by.
And what do we have? People who are absolutely doing that right now.
Absolutely.
Yes,
It started somewhere.
That's right.
Started somewhere, right?
So you saw this need in the community with young people, and you decided this is where I can plug in.
Yes, yes.
And I love that. These are the kind of conversations that this podcast was meant to have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. People who see a need, took the initiative, and they're doing the work.
The work.
Absolutely.
The work.
And this is not the only area that you've done that. So you also do work, you and Catherine both, do work with veterans.
Yes.
So, Catherine, you two want to talk about that piece?
But, wait,
Well,
I'm sorry.
before
you do that, because I would be totally remiss if I didn't mention my wife.
Okay.
And the reason, the name of the company was really, she and I working on some stuff, and she said, what about this? And this was probably about 9 years ago when that name was put out there. She has an extremely heavy background in human services and victim advocacy, tremendous in terms of planning and program development. And so
We need to have her on the show.
we
need to have Ms. Harrison.
absolutely, no problem. But yes, I'm truly amazing. No, I'm just kidding. But I do not want to give the impression that this is all just from my mind space. She's phenomenal in that regard, and absolutely, I think she'd be tremendous because she takes the skills and then adds
Fills it out.
flesh
Gotcha.
where I might not necessarily understand.
Well, we know women rule the world, right?
So you had the vision.
I'm sorry.
You had the vision and she had the planning.
It's kind of, sort of, yeah. But, which I'm okay with.
Absolutely.
I mean, the thing about it is that, she's passionate about young people, and as am I. And so, that's what has to happen, right? You got to have people that are truly passionate, have some skill, have some ability, have some vision, have some foresight, have some education, some management skills and all of that stuff to kind of put it all together.
Absolutely.
All extremely important.
I did want you to, again, give people the name of your nonprofit, how they can get in contact with you, and how can people support what you're doing.
Sure.
That's the other part of
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Inner City Achievers Network, Inc., again, we're a registered Georgia corporation, 501c3 approved. Email is innercityachievers @gmail.com. Inner City Achievers. And then telephone 404-556-3931. 404-556-3931. Of course, our domain is www.innercityachieversnetwork.com. I'm sorry, .org. But if you go to that now, you're not going to find anything.
Okay.
So don't do that. And then say, hey, he gave us that.
We will have that information out when we post it.
Great. But yeah, that would be the way to, the easiest ways to. And if you want to give, obviously, call that number.
Absolutely.
Send me. You can reach me by rail, trailway, anyway. Just come on.
That's right.
Because it's going to take money
to start accepting donations.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Which is because it's going to take that in order to move this forward. And
do you have a need for volunteers right now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. However, we will, without a doubt. Without a doubt, because there are a number of things that, again, when we talk about community engagement, right? There are a number of things that, I plan to piggyback off of things that I've done to expand it. Because, again, I want young people to have the opportunity to be engaged, to see what's happening within the community, and that's definitely going to require, volunteers.
How long is your program? Is it a set time, or is it just until the young person reaches a certain
I would say,
level?
if I were to compare it to the journey from white belt to black belt, it's 3.5 years.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying it would take that long, but I'm saying that if someone joins up with it, they bring their young person. I mean, I can accomplish whatever they want to accomplish in a time frame, but one of the benefits to time is you have the opportunity for repetition.
Yes.
Right? The what do we call it? The get rich quick schemes.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why you got people in prison.
Right.
So we need, you got to be willing to spend time. So I equate it to that. I'm not saying it would take 3.5 years. I'm saying that it's that type of commitment. How long is a parent willing to have their child play baseball?
Right.
And they start that from the time that they're walking.
Absolutely.
Getting them in those little T-ball programs.
4.
At 3,
Absolutely. And then you look at the other side. How many of the young people that are presently in the system actually had athletic talent and their parents invested in them? But look, unfortunately, here's where they are. So the time, you got to be willing. I mean, I make no apologies for that. It's like when students would come to the dojang. Yeah, people, that would come and, well, my child is out of control. I need you to get him under control in 2 weeks. I'll take your child for 2 weeks.
Right.
No, I'll take your child.
Right.
Now, when that 2 weeks is up and you see what's happened in your child's life, as a parent now, it's up to you. Do you really want to stop?
Right.
Or do you want them to continue?
Right.
Now,
and that leads me to, how do you build that relationship with the parents? Because we all know it's a village. I'm a real big believer in a village. So how do we continue to encourage our parents to partner with you, partner with our schools and our entire community, so we can be that village to support what you're doing and support that young person?
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, one of the things at the top of the list is just like this. It's these types of conversations. Obviously, to the degree that I am able to get audiences with parents through schools, through community organizations, they will want to partner because the need is. This is not. I didn't make this up.
Right.
Did you watch the news this morning?
Yes.
I promise you, within the first 7 minutes of the news program,
every day,
you saw at least 2 to 3 incidents of violence that occurred last night.
Right.
Yes, every day.
Yeah.
So it's communication, it's podcasts, it's word of mouth, it's opportunities to speak at different events. So that's another thing I would say to anybody that's watching this. You're looking for someone, because I am a public speaker, I do that as well, and I'm willing to come, I'm willing to address your group, talk about what we do, what we can do, but we have to have those opportunities to do that.
That sounds good. We had some other elected officials on who work in the county and are definitely looking to partner with nonprofits, the Gwinnett County and so forth. So we need to highlight what you're doing so you can help stop this school to prison pipeline.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we have tried and true. You had someone, Karen, sitting right here, and your child is what, a black belt? You have 2 kids?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're both black belts.
Both of them are black belts.
Correct.
in 2 disciplines. Chi and Choi Kwang Do, which are both similar.
Yeah. And then the self-defense piece too, I think is
so important. Because here's the other side. I mean, when we talk about self-defense, it is self-defense. Right? So, and there's nothing wrong with defending yourself.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry, I've never been the turn the other cheek guy.
Right.
If you go to slap me in my mouth,
either, right?
yeah, I mean, I'm going. My efforts are going to be to stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And make sure that you don't try to do it again.
That's right.
But that is still a mindset. It's still foundations from somewhere, and the foundation of that is, if I can avoid a situation where you're going to try to slap me in my mouth, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and just real quick, when we talk about authority, it's an issue of personhood, obviously, but it's more than that. It's also situations.
Right.
Right. I mean, authority, is a huge word. It encompasses the red light has authority.
Correct.
The stop sign. Listen, if you have a daughter, right? Your daughter you have 2 sons, amazing young men. If they are with someone, a young lady, and she says, stop, what does that mean?
You've got to respect that.
That's authority.
Absolutely, absolutely.
She can be younger than them. She could be weaker than them. She could be attractive as all get up.
Right.
She could have given every indication prior to that moment that she wanted to be with them. But when she says stop,
That's it.
right? And so one of the things I've told parents, because you mentioned authority and I said, sir, you got a daughter. I have a daughter, right? If my daughter tells, I said, your daughter tells this guy stop, and he doesn't stop, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to. Exactly. Why? Because her word carries authority. So when we have to understand that authority is so much more than just a person
Having authority. Yes, yes.
It is the end all be all in situations, and you got to learn to deal with that. You work at a job, right? Your employer tells you to do something, and you can think your employer is an absolute idiot. Don't know what they're doing, but guess what? That's your boss.
Right.
And if you still want to have that job,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. Also, you mentioned that you do self-defense.
Yes.
And as a survivor of MST
Sure.
and with the trauma that comes with that as a veteran, how can you speak to that? Because I was volunteering at another spot, and there was a lady, we were just talking about traveling, and a lot of women feel nervous and scared about traveling alone. Not that you want to walk down the alley at 3 at night, that's not safe, but you do want to feel empowered. So how does the self-defense piece work with that?
Well, and thank you for asking that question. And, anytime you're talking about survivors of any sort, it's such a huge issue. The issues that kind of go along with it, in many cases, are more mental, sometimes than they are physical, believe it or not. And that's not to minimize any level of it. But there was a movie that came out several years ago called Enough.
Yes.
Right?
J-Lo.
Yeah, J-Lo. Yeah. Horrible movie.
more ways.
If I were to, and I do a women's self-defense program, but if I had to take something and say, this is what you don't want to do, it would be that.
Oh.
Now, from what perspective? Well, should a woman understand how to defend herself? Absolutely. Absolutely. But should a woman be engaging in behavior, and I'm not saying this to blame her, but to me what that movie did was it created a sense that dealing with someone who is as physically and emotionally and psychologically abusing as this character was, that you're going to be able to overcome him by taking some classes and learning to follow the... All of that stuff is important, but I'm going to take it back to authority.
Yes.
You have to get to a place where your survival is number one. That's the authority. I need to survive. So any technique I learn is truly a last-ditch effort to survive.
Okay.
I'm going to utilize anything I can prior to that physical conflict to survive.
Okay. Yep.
Now, when those things fail, and sometimes, hey, if we had A to Z, and you're doing A, B, C, and you're in a situation where things are totally out of control and you got to accelerate to that physical piece, no problem. But you have to take responsibility, and again, I say this with all compassion. I'm not implying that the victim is somehow responsible, but now getting past it, I got to be able to really analyze what I'm doing. I got to think about the situations that I'm putting myself in. True story. Years ago, I was in New York City. I was leaving a meeting. It was late at night. Now, I grew up in the city, so there ain't no place in New York that I'm scared of. None, and I mean that. I'm leaving this meeting, walking through Manhattan. I turn on a street, and I look ahead of me, and there's two guys, maybe about a quarter of the way up the block, and they were just kind of standing there looking sort of casual. So I'm walking, and then I looked across the street peripherally, and I saw another guy
They were spotting you.
right?
Get ready to set up.
And he was, he was kind of moving this way. Now, here's the truth. If they weren't armed, I probably could take them.
Okay.
I probably could.
Right.
My survival instincts alone would be enough. I don't think I was armed. But what did I do? I made a beeline through the cars. I was like, I'm walking full step. I didn't break a step. Turned, went back out on the avenue, went down the street. Walked down to the next major street and went across. Why? Because my instincts said to me that you need to survive.
Yeah.
Correct.
You need to survive. Now, if I had gone down there and when I got there and I saw them, and then when I turned around, there was another guy that was right there, and so now I'm in a situation where, I'm sort of being cornered. I may have to do something. Still, though, to get on the main and get down to the public intersection. Like, I'm not going to stay there
Right.
and beat these people to death.
Okay.
That's not the objective.
Correct.
My objective is to survive.
Correct.
If I can survive, then it gives me the opportunity to do something else after. Side note, you get stopped by the police. How many videos do we see? And I'm not dismissing the issue of things.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying when we talk about authority, you get stopped by the police. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Police act out of control, no question about it. But on that traffic stop, who's the authority?
The officers.
That officer. Now, I'm not defending anything they do.
Yeah.
The ones that do
sometimes-
something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even that didn't really work for Philando Castile. But
You're absolutely right. There is-
we've had conversations. I have 3 sons, and so I've had conversations with my boys, my young men, before they were 10, before they got into double digits. I had to have the conversation. My husband and I had the conversation with them. If you ever get stopped, comply.
Right.
That's right.
Even if that police officer is being a jerk,
Yep.
is being disrespectful, comply.
Correct.
Dad and I will fight that battle
That's
for
correct.
you.
That's
Exactly.
You just get
conversation
home
we
to
have.
us safely.
That's
Please.
right.
And we will fight
We
that
can
battle.
fight another day.
But listen,
yes.
here's my thing. And you said that to your sons. Excellent. I said that to my son, said it to my daughter, tell it to my wife, tell it to myself. Because it doesn't matter whether it's a young person or an adult. When you're in a situation, you have to analyze the authority of the situation. The situation in and of itself has an authority level to it, right? You're right. And unfortunately for Philandro, I mean, horrible, right?
Horrible.
So you got officers that are going to abuse their authority, right? But what I know is, if I survive that, it's going to be some. If your sons get abused in a situation with officers, you just need them to get home.
That's
right.
it.
And
That's
tell
it.
me, your mom, right?
Yeah.
Well dressed and all proper and everything. When your sons come home and tell you that an officer abused them and did such and such,
I'm on it.
there you go.
That's right.
It's going to be a whole different Karen.
On and popping,
I'm on
as
it.
they say.
Right. But you can't have that experience
Yeah.
Right.
if you don't make it home.
Absolutely.
So I'm taking it back to the thing with, as a woman, you cannot deal with any of the aftermath of a situation if you can't survive it.
Correct.
So, and part of survival to me is the avoidance.
Right.
To the best of my ability,
Correct.
to the absolute best. And even if I have to have a conflict, when we teach, Karen, and you all know, when we teach martial arts, we're not teaching the kids how to kill people.
Correct.
How to defend themselves.
Defend yourself.
That's it.
Defend yourself and get out of the situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? This is one of the greatest. Hey, stop.
Correct.
That's self-defense right there. So it's. That's what I would say. And then techniques, yes, absolutely. Because if you're in a situation where you have to physically defend yourself, you need to know some things.
Correct.
So even that defense is about repetition,
Okay.
repetitive behavior.
And so
That's
you're
what I'm hearing.
teaching that to the kids with inner city
Achievers Network. Yes,
Achievers
and
Network.
also to women, because they're vulnerable, unfortunately, within our society as well. And so when you talk about women's self-defense, again, it has to center around repetitive behaviors that are basic, that are easy, that are natural to learn and to do, right? Like your keys.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I've
Them
seen
keys
that.
in your
Yeah.
hand.
Put the keys
You
in.
only need one key.
Yeah.
Just one key,
That's
right there in your
right.
hand.
That's right.
I'll make you think about something.
Yeah.
One key, long enough to get out of it.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's all I really want.
Right.
Stick them in the eye.
That's
Oh yeah.
And those soft points.
I'm all about that.
Yeah,
I'm all
that's
about
So, Inner City Achievers Network, you're focusing on conflict resolution,
Yep.
some self-defense.
Yep.
What are some other goals that?
Okay, so if I kind of respond to that within the framework of programs. Okay, so we have one which is called Not on My Watch.
Okay.
And that program actually is going to center around the issue of human trafficking.
Wow.
And an understanding of what that is, what it looks like, being engaged within the community, organizations that support it, trainings that we can take to help young people, young men and young women understand what that's all about. In my defense, obviously, which is conflict resolution and personal self-defense. One of the things that we hope to ultimately have is what I've described as the Prince and Princess Annual Scholarship Ball. And that'll be an opportunity for us to recognize young people who stay with the program,
Yeah.
who go through. And I shouldn't say that, because it's not always just about the completion of the program as much as it is, personal successes that they have. If they're able to achieve certain things, we want to be able to recognize them. And then if they want to do other things, if they want to go to college, if they want to start a business, whatever they want to do, be able to support them through scholarship. So those, and that's going to be, yep. I mean, how did I forget? A program that supports, we don't have a name for it, but we want to be able to support single parents that are raising children.
Yeah.
My God, I mean, you all, the statistics on when we talk about young people in prison, how many of them were raised by single parents?
Yeah, the numbers are high.
Oh,
Yeah.
they are staggering, comparatively. And unfortunately, especially with people that look like us, that have these darker hues, right?
Yeah.
So, how can we support our single parents?
Yes.
Because they have that responsibility. And single parents, primarily, we're talking about women, right? I mean, I say single parents, predominantly women. How can we support them? What can we do? Because I want to build in a piece where we maybe can do some things with veterans and help them with some of the challenges that exist within that world, which is pretty significant.
You are doing some amazing stuff there, Mr. Harris.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Single parents, veterans, mentoring these young people.
And the acronym for Inner City Achievers.
ICAN, Inner City Achievers Network.
That's nice.
Right.
Now I can remember ICAN.
That's right.
That's right. And
That's
it's
right.
our website again is
www.innercityachieversnetwork.org.
and they can contact you on the phone number.
404-556-3931. Email innercityachievers@gmail.com.
Love it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, John.
Oh,
Harris,
thank you.
for taking the time to speak.
Absolutely my pleasure. Anytime. And I'm going to tell my wife, because I know,
That's right.
if you really want to get the nitty gritty, that's
We want to talk to the real
just say
boss.
I'm the sales guy,
Right.
I'm the front guy.
And that's what we need folks to come and share their visions for a better community.
Absolutely.
And we want to talk to folks who are coming up with solutions where they see problems. Because as I've said in another podcast, if you're just talking, you're just noise. If you're not putting some action behind your words, it's just noise. And you're putting actions behind your words, and that's what we want to talk about.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And that's what we want to highlight.
Absolutely.
And we thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat,
Where we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.